There, you want some blasting metal to launch this CSR thing? How about a little sound of some radical feedback? Hi everybody, I'm Bill Whittle. I'm your host of the Stratosphere Lounge, and this is going to be getting dark in here. This is going to be the special Stratosphere Lounge edition for the Common Sense Resistance. I have got a lot of great stuff. Oh, come on. A lot of great... See, they're monitoring me. The NSA's already... they're already pushing things down here. What is going on with this thing? Am I just getting messages? Hang on a second. Weird. Yeah, for sure. They're monitoring the phone calls. They're trying to strangle the signal, but as everybody knows, the signal will get out. So, yeah, it's good to be here. Hi, everybody. I hope everybody's having a great time. I've got a lot of stuff to talk about tonight. Actually, the lights going on and off is kind of dramatic. It's kind of cool, actually. So, yeah, let's get going with this thing. I think what I want to do tonight is we got some questions, obviously, from Facebook, as we always do. And then we've got a couple things that I want to just lead with on this. So time's wasting, so let's get to work here. Here's the first thing I want to say about the Common Sense Resistance. I've looked at the metrics for the show for Stratosphere Lounge, and like every other show, more people are on at the beginning, and as time goes on, more and more people fall off, which is natural, and certainly I don't have any problem with that. So I'm going to put first what I would like to have put last, because I need just to get this done. I need to get it out. We're going to do this Common Sense Resistance thing. I think it's going to be absolutely gigantic. I got a lot to talk about what it is, but here's the math. It's not a cheap production. It's going to require costumes, locations, special effects, makeup, all kinds of other things. Now, right now, our subscriber base is smaller. We're actually losing money now, and I don't mind that, because it's a business like every other business. You have to be prepared to lose some money. We have some monies in savings, but what we can't do is we can't just pick up another gigantic hunk of expenses. So we did the math on what it would take to do this, and I wanted to put this first because this is really what it's going to come down to. We're going to need 510 subscribers, additional 510 subscribers to do that. And we can get another 510 subscribers, which is about 1/10 of what the Stratosphere Lounge normally does on YouTube. Usually does 4,000 to 5,000 viewers. So if 1 out of 10 of the Strata Lounge viewers, or if something like 1 out of, what do we need? 1 out of 200 or something of the total Facebook fans, some number like that. If we can get that, then we can do these things. And once we have that subscriber base, the nice thing about subscribers is those people basically stay forever. So if we can get 510 subscribers, I wrote the number down just before we went on the air. If we can add 510 subscribers, that's what the budget of this thing is going to be. Then we can shoot 4 of these a month and release 1 a week. So that's the first thing I have to say. And until we get to that number, we won't be able to do a thing. With that said, it gives us something to promote, and it gives us a chance to do kind of like the thermometer, it's a pledge goal, and we're just going to promote it until we get it. And the instant we get that 510 subscriber, we will be out there shooting this Common Sense Resistance stuff. So had to put the commercial first because I needed people to hear it, and I wanted to be as clear as I can be about that. Okay, so with that said, let's talk about what this thing's going to be, because I only released it a week, 2-3 days ago. Got an Insta-Launch. I didn't send out the link. It's obviously something a lot of people can resonate with. There's a lot of people that are doing something or have heard of something that's kind of similar along, similar lines out there. Let me see if I can get some white balance on this. Look a little jaundiced here. Yeah, whatever. That's the truth of the matter. So let me tell you why I think this thing's going to be really interesting, and what I think it could turn out to be. So commercials over. Let's get into what we would like to see this thing happen. I think in the worst case scenario, lowest expectations, what will happen, I'm convinced of this, what will happen is at the very least it'll be a very cool skin for political content. It'll be a chance to get a message out there to people who never would have heard our message before in a way that they never would have even listened to our message before. And in addition to that, I think it is going to be just a heck of a lot of fun as a basically kind of a role-playing game that we can do. Not just us, I mean conservatives in general. What I mean by a role-playing game, I don't know if any of you guys ever remember, some of you may remember, it was big when I was in college. There's a game called Killer or Assassin, and basically what it was it was a game where you would have a bunch of people would sign up for it, and everybody in the group, let's say there were 50 people, everybody in the group would get the name of somebody else in the group, and that would be their target, and they had to kill that person, and they had rules for safety, like you could strangle them with like a Kleenex, or you could, if you popped a balloon in their presence, you know, that was a bomb, and they were killed that way, and you know, that kind of thing. But the thing about Killer that was fun was it was a real-world game, and if you killed somebody, you got their contact, you got their target. Eventually, there's only 2 people left, and everybody's kind of paranoid and nervous and all that other stuff. But at the very, very least, what we can do with the Common Sense Resistance is, in addition to producing some really, really, really cool video, which I'll talk about that in a minute, we'll have a chance to form like an online community, and we can do all this kind of fun stuff. Even in the comments section, right off the bat, people were doing kind of like reports from the field, you know, and I did a post on what the correct terminology is and all that other stuff. So I think the very least is that we'll have a chance to really reach young people in a way that we haven't reached them before. I think we'll have a chance to really have a lot of fun, just in kind of role. I don't know if you've ever played role-playing games, but they're a blast. And so, you know, hopefully it never comes to this. That's the lowest bar. I think if it really takes off and people really find it interesting in this whole idea of like a new message and a new way to deliver these conservative common sense ideas, if it really takes off, then it becomes a real world movement, like a political party. You know, when everything goes out of orbit, it becomes a third party, right? I mean, it becomes the common sense party. But if you have enough members, if you have, you know, hundreds of thousands or millions of people who I'm not talking about subscribers now, I'm just talking about if you have people who are interested, who like this idea, and I'm going to talk a lot about the networks coming up. Then, if you have the ability to put 4, 5, 6 million votes in one place, you can win an election. You can have a presence. You can move the needle, move the ball in a lot of ways. So I think the second thing it could become, in addition to just being great content and fun, is it could conceivably still be a real information age movement that could have political consequences in the real world. And the third thing I think it could be is something I don't want to talk about too much because nobody wants to get there, but nevertheless, you're going to hear a lot about the networks, about how the philosophy of the common sense resistance coming up. I think it's really interesting and fun stuff. But look, we can't keep spending this money forever. We know that this is going to eventually end in disaster, and if we don't get people in there who are going to get the spending under control and start a payment plan or something, then the best case scenario will be that all of the hundreds of trillions of dollars of unmet liabilities and debts will be sort of forgiven. And there's a lot of talk about people talking about a one world currency, and we all know where that's going to lead. So there is a potential world where, forget about the zombie apocalypse, forget about nuclear war, there's a potential world where if the world economy collapses, this is not the Depression, this is not the 1930s, where people mostly lived on farms and half the country had electricity. If there is a worldwide economic collapse, it's the singularity, right? No one can see past that. No one can see past it. So the idea that there might be an existing network of people who by definition are fixers, are people who understand how to do things, who believe in competence and who believe in common sense and practical experience. I think, look, if the world economy collapses, I'd rather be friends with a farmer than friends with a guy who teaches Renaissance poetry at Stanford, right? I mean, this kind of thing. And it's not just simple things like farming, although God knows farming isn't simple and God knows farming is the hardest job in the world. People who can change a tire. I mean, most guys in Los Angeles don't know how to change a tire. If this network exists and is robust enough, and I've got a lot to say about this, then there's a potential world where this kind of thing is in fact a structure that could survive the kind of economic collapse that's no longer Looney Tunes to talk about, right? It could actually help save humanity. It could actually help save the world. It could recover competence. Nobody knows what this post-apocalyptic future looks like. Certainly no one knows if a post-apocalyptic future is even coming. God knows we don't want it to come. But if it does, then it'd be nice to have pockets of people scattered all around the country who know how to grow food, who know how to ration food, who know how to wash and clean a wound. People who are willing to plow, people who are willing to pump water. I find, look, if I live in Los Angeles, if I can fight my way to my airplane and get out of here, and I find some people that are growing food, I'm not going to be Mr. Internet celebrity guy who's going to sit around the campfire and tell stories. I will be honored to go out and pick vegetables and plow fields and cart water in order to have something to eat that day. I have no misconceptions about that at all. I will have a rifle to defend whatever community, and I will go out there and work and do physical labor and chop wood so that I can eat. And if the world comes to that, it'd be nice if we knew who we were, right? Kind of nice if we knew who we were. So that's what it could be, in the biggest place. So why don't we just look at it that way, right? Why don't we just look at what we know it's going to be, something that's going to be interesting content and different and fun and just cool and just something we can all do together. It's just be fun. It is like a secret handshake. And let's see what happens with that. And then if it turns out that it starts to be on fire and it's a movement, then we can talk about, maybe making it a real-world political party, or at least an online movement that can influence votes and policy and write congressmen. And then we hope to God that we can solve this problem before we get to the kind of place where we have to worry about it being anything bigger than that. So that's basically it. I hear the voice, or I hear the sound of a zombie in the background. Somebody's going to drop something off for me. So there we go, right? That's kind of what I think we want to be doing. I got to just get one thing queued up here. Give me 1 second. Sorry about this. Okay, so what is this thing and how does it work? Let's get into that, because I think this is part that's really the most fun. First of all, I should lead by saying this. It is 100% open source. Okay? Of all the things I've thought about, this is the thing that I had the most serious and interesting and profound thoughts about. It is open source. Now, when we have this conversation about the common sense resistance, we're going to have two separate conversations. One of the conversations is what happens inside this fantasy world, because it is basically set in the future. It is a fantasy world. So consider it like the Star Trek universe, the Star Wars universe, whatever universe you want to call it. The common sense resistance world is set in the future. So we're going to talk about things that are internal to that world. And then we're also going to have to talk about things that happen in the real world. And finally, we have to talk about rules. And there aren't going to be many rules. And I can't enforce rules. And I don't want to enforce rules. So the rules are going to be very, very, very small in number, maybe 2 or 3. And those rules I can only enforce in, canon, official stuff. If people go out and make these things on their own, we'll get to that in a minute. I'm as happy as I can be. Okay, everybody having fun so far? Here comes the neat stuff. Okay, so in terms of content, in terms of what the videos are, I see them being 2 different kinds of content. It's going to be set in the future after an economic collapse and a giant totalitarian government. People are going to have embedded in their left arms or in their right arms, maybe, I haven't decided, the symbolism is important, probably their left arms, probably embedded right in here somewhere. They're going to have a little chip about the size of a piece of rice, a little transponder, and by that time they'll basically be universal Wi-Fi. So the state will be able to do this. You're going to get a little grain of rice implanted in your arm when you're born, and that's going to be able to tell you where you are, what you're doing. It's going to monitor your health, and so on. And here's how the state's going to sell this. They're going to sell this chip by saying this way. First of all, it locates you, so you can never get lost. If you fall off a cliff, if you get lost hiking, we can come and rescue you. It monitors all of your vital signs. If you have a heart attack, we can get people to you right away. And not only can we get them to you right away, we know where you are. It's going to monitor all of your biosigns. If there are signs of cancer, it'll be able to detect that. It'll be able to detect when your stress levels are high. And the state's going to say all of this stuff. And they say, best of all, this little chip's going to handle all kinds of other things for you, too. It's going to be done, for example, you won't have to worry about picking up a paycheck. You'll go to work, and your credits will be directly wired into your little chip in your arm. And And so once it's in your chip, your credits will just show up automatically. You go to a checkout line. You don't have to even swipe your arm. The Wi-Fi in the checkout counter deducts the balance from you, and so on. And the best part of all is it takes care of your taxes. You don't even have to worry about paying your taxes because we've already deducted your taxes, and the remaining credits go directly to your system. And they're going to sell this thing and make it sound so attractive. They're going to make it sound so beautiful. And we're going to produce those commercials. What we're going to do is we're going to produce the commercials of the big state to show just how wonderful this is. And with a chip, you get your housing, you get your free health care, you get your free housing, you get your free transportation, you get your free food, you get your free everything. They're going to make this thing sound so beautiful, and those commercials are going to be so glossy, and they're going to be so soothing. They're going to look all the colors of Obamacare, and they're going to have the light blues, and they're going to make the case for how awesome it's going to be to have this chip in your arm. And as a matter of fact, we have to make this so compelling that you really have to feel like you're an idiot for not doing it. So then the question becomes, okay, let's say that everybody in the society has these things and they get their credits. And by the way, the state is there to make sure that nobody gets, their unfair share. That's another benefit of these chips. No one gets to take more than their fair share. Everybody gets, more or less the same. And you get rewards for good behavior if you tell on somebody or if you know something. You get extra credits. All this stuff is worked out. Don't you worry, we'll take care of everything. So we make a series of commercials that downstream, it's not the first thing we lead with, but we make a series of commercials that make this really appealing, and they're very glossy and they're very professional looking. All right? So what is the common sense resistance then in that case? The common sense resistance is a group of people that have decided voluntarily to rip that chip out of their arm and live off the grid. Now, without a chip, they can't buy food, they can't get housing, they can't get medical care, they can't get any of that stuff. They're going to have to go out and do it on their own, and it has to be clear. The entire purpose of the meta purpose of what we're doing with these episodes is that this is unpleasant and unpopular. You see? Unpleasant and unpopular, because right now conservatism to young people and to just about most people, after all of the demonization on the part of the media, we are unpleasant and unpopular people, and we have to make it look that way. And so it has to be like, what on earth could compel somebody to rip one of these things out of their arm and give up all these benefits? Why would they do it? It shouldn't make any sense. It shouldn't make sense to people. And now we've got them. Because if you're talking about the contrast between all the stuff you get for free and all of the hardships, literally living off the grid, literally living in sewers, literally living in bombed out abandoned buildings, why would somebody do that? Why? Well, they would do it because something has to be more important than comfort. And the whole purpose of the common sense resistance media that we're going to produce is that we're going to convince people that freedom is more valuable than comfort. It's better to be free and miserable in terms of your surroundings, in terms of the food you eat and the living where you live, than to be owned and comfortable. That's the whole argument. If we can emotionally, through the quality of the storytelling, through the heroism of the characters, through the sense that they're the underdogs, through the sense that people naturally like the rebel, if we can make the case that the people who are free and uncomfortable are better people, they're not smarter people, they're not, although they are, they're not, they're better, they're morally better, even though they're less comfortable by orders of magnitude, even though they're less comfortable, then they're happier. If you can show the bonds between the people and the common sense resistance, if you can show the interaction between these people, they're ready to fight and die for these ideas that make them uncomfortable. Why not just sit at home and get all these free benefits? If you can show people that it's better to be brothers in arms fighting for freedom than it is to be sitting at home watching TV and have all your bills paid for and all of this just taken away from you. You make that case. If you make that case, then you are going to win. That's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to do. Now, that's the fundamentals of the message. So while we're on content, before we get to the real world stuff and the real world rules, as somebody just pointed out in the Matrix, that's exactly right. The Matrix is the same way. Why would Why do people unplug from the Matrix? Why not do what the other two movies were terrible, but the first movie was great? I'm sorry, I want to credit, who was it who said the Matrix? Golly. I always hate... Frenzy Remix, thank you. Yeah, that's a great point on the Matrix. Remember the Joe Pantalone character, Joey Pants, who basically has a choice. He says, "I'd rather live in the illusion. I'd rather live in the illusion and have a nice steak than be on this damn ship fighting day and night and eating my algae paste." So you see what we're doing here? If you can show people that it's worth risking your life, that it's worth living in rubble, if it's worth eating beans out of a can as opposed to having a flat screen TV and an iPad and all that other stuff, and the freedom is better, it's game over. It's game over. And this is what nobody's doing. This is story, right? And the way we do it is we make the people who are fighting for freedom good people, and we make the people who are fighting for comfort to destroy the freedom-loving people into villains. They're enslaving people. They're turning them into cattle. That's the story. That's what the common sense resistance is about as a narrative, as a story. Okay? Now, again, we're going to get so much feedback on this. I'm just giving you the basics, and we're going to figure this out together. But I see two different kinds of content. One kind of content I'm going to call home movies. First of all, there's not going to be any God's eye camera here. In other words, there's not going to ever be a shot where there's a camera set up and you see people walking into a building. Everything that comes out of the common sense resistance is going to be handheld camera footage, found footage. Somebody's going to be shooting it and somebody else. You're never going to have a view looking down on people walking into a building, never going to have any of these establishing shots. It's all going to be first person. It's all going to be rebel journalism. It's all going to have a sense of we are in there with people who are taking videos. But it's not going to be shot like a feature film. We're never, ever, ever going to do any establishing shots like that because that takes you out of the presence of it. It takes you out of the reality of it. It's got to look like reality. So there are going to be two different kinds of messages, I think. There's going to be messages that we're going to call home movies, and that would be, let's say, a guy holding a camera with four other guys going through the rubble. Maybe they're trying to find the common sense resistance or something. And then it looks a bit like Blair Witch Project, these kind of things, right? Although not quite as shaky so that people don't get, completely sick. But maybe some of the home movies is that, or maybe some of the home movies is, hey, here's a look at we've got a common sense resistance cell, which I think should look a lot like the human resistance in the Terminator movies. It's kind of underground. You got kind of armed guards, and you got guys in there and kind of a control center, that kind of thing. So home movies can actually go on for a while. They can be 5, 10, 15 minutes, that kind of thing. And they are behind the scenes looking at the world that we're in. But that's not the real power. The main stuff is going to be political commentary. It is political commentary, but in order to sell the political commentary to people, we have to put it in a story box. It can't just be a firewall where I get up there and talk to people who more or less already get the message. If we're going to get political commentary out to people, it's got to be in a frame that looks like a story. So here's how the political commentary works. I've just given this a little thought, and the great thing about having an audience like this audience is there's so many people are going to come up with so many awesome ideas to really buff this up. And this is exactly why I said at the very beginning, this is open source. I'm not dictating this. I'm not commanding it. I'm just lighting the fire. So what I want to do for the political commentary is I took a look at the metrics on my videos and a lot of other people, and here's how it goes. Nobody, after 3.5 to 4 minutes, 85% of the people have stopped watching. So what that means is if we're going to do political comment that's different from the home movies, if we're going to do a political message, it has to be two minutes long, maximum 2 minutes long. So how do we tell a 2-minute story as a story? In other words, why 2 minutes? Why? What are we doing? First of all, that's really important discipline. 2 minutes maximum. It's a 2-minute drill. If you can't get it said in 2 minutes, you need to break it up. You need to do it in separate pieces. So 2-minute videos. People will watch 2-minute videos, especially young people will watch 2-minute videos. So how do we put some, the word we use in science fiction writing is chrome, right? Chrome is details that you add that spice up the fundamental plot things you have to have. So you throw some chrome at it, you make it kind of shiny and make it interesting. So here's what I've decided to do. The home movies kind of are longer, and they paint the sort of the world of the common sense resistance. Here's what it's like to live in the common sense resistance. But the powerful stuff is the political message. And the chrome I came up with was this. They're going to take these political messages, and when I say we are literally going to shoot these things in sewer pipes or in bombed out buildings. It's going to be deep, deep, deep in an abandoned building, and you're going to see rubble, and a guy's going to come in, and he's going to put his firearm down. He's going to have a little lamp, and he's going to set up a camera on a rock, and he's not going to have any graphics. He's going to draw things on a wall with chalk, or he's going to draw on metal with a magic marker, because paper is very hard to find in those days. And basically, he's going to make the case to the camera, first person, with just the natural light. And when I say natural light, I mean the light from an iPhone or the light from a candle or a lamp or something like that, or one of those camping fluorescent lamps. And it's going to be surrounded by things. And every now and then there's going to be sounds of dogs in the distance, and we're going to have to terminate the transition. So how do we have fun with the idea that we want to keep these messages to about 2 minutes? Not rigidly 2 minutes, but right about. So what I've decided I think I want to do is this. These guys are going to have with them, when they make a political message, they're going to have a box, and we're going to have to get a prop. It's going to have to look fairly cool and compact, and it's going to have some bells and whistles on it. But if you remember the Burning Chrome stuff that William Gibson wrote, it's a deck. It's a cyber deck. And here's how it works. If we want to send a political message, a member of the common sense resistance has to go someplace that's very, very remote, very bombed out, very distant. But it has to have some kind of an internet connection. He has to be able to get to a cable feed or a telephone line, something like this. And so what happens is we take the camera, and he takes the camera, and from the camera, a cable goes from the camera into the box. And I'm going to call the box the Enigma box. And I'm well aware of the history of Enigma. Enigma was the coding machine that the Nazis used. People say you got to be careful about, you don't want to get I'll get to some of these questions. You don't want to be called this, you don't want to be called that. No, I do. I do. Nothing would make me happier than have people say, oh, look, these Nazis are even using a box called the Enigma. That's what the Nazis used in World War II. I want that argument. I want it. I want people to say, so you guys are just a bunch of Nazis, huh? Then we get to say, well, we're all personally armed, and the Nazis disarmed everybody. And this whole common sense resistance about individuality fighting the state. Nazism was about the state. I want that argument. I want that. I want them to come after me. So there are, in the total common sense resistance, 4 of these Enigma boxes in the world. And they're very specialized, and the guy who built them has been killed. He's just been taken out by a drone strike or something. 4. Okay? So the message goes from the camera. Once you connect it, it goes from the camera into the Enigma box. The Enigma box connects to the internet. And what the Enigma box does, this is just Chrome, right? But what the Enigma box does is the Enigma box takes a video message and parcels it out and sends it out under false email addresses to thousands and thousands and thousands of servers all across the web. And then these servers, at a certain moment, send emails back or something to some other random location. Could be happening on some housewife's computer, shouldn't even know it, where that message is reassembled into a video format, and it goes directly into the television feed of the state. So right in the middle of a program, all of a sudden, static, and here comes your message. Now, the reason we have a 2-minute content is because the Enigma box in real time starts looking at the countermeasures that the state is doing, trying to track and localize the message. They're trying to track the message, trying to localize it. So the Enigma box in real time is taking a look at how close they are to being able to localize where this transmission is coming from, because the box is damn clever, but they're clever too. And basically, what's going to basically happen is we're going to say that it takes about 2 minutes for the state to get a general enough idea, an action, that's the term I'm looking for, an actionable location on where this message is coming from. It has to happen in real time. So we've got about 2 minutes to get this message out, because after that, they start to localize enough so that they can start moving on us. And sometimes the Enigma box will say, hey, you got 2 minutes and 22 seconds at the current rate of detection, 222, 159. All of a sudden, it's just going to go drop from 159 down to 38 seconds. Right? What happened? I don't know, but there's a breakthrough. They're much closer than we thought. We got to get this message. And then at 2 minutes, the box cuts off. It just cuts off. It doesn't give you the option of running long. Once they realize it gets to a certain level of detection, the Enigma box shuts the signal down. And that means that we can cut certain videos in mid-sentence. Just goes to black, goes back to the original programming. Let's go back to an Obamacare commercial, although we'll get to Obama in a minute because he's not in this by name, but we'll know who he is. Right? So that's just really cool Chrome. That's a way to say, and we've got a little countdown climber. The Enigma box is in the shot, and we see, 157, 156, 155, 154, 150, so on. It's cool. It's just really cool. And the guy's trying to get this message out. I'm going to talk to you about Laffer curves, or I'm going to talk to you about private property. I'm going to talk to you about all these other things. And I've got, oh my God, I'm out of time. Okay. It's fantastic. It's really interesting. And it's shot where the camera is, Blair Witch Project, right? In the tent, that's what it looks like. You got a guy right up here, and he's whispering, and he's got a firearm, and every now and then you'll hear a sound, or maybe you hear a dog barking, and then light will go off, and it'll just be that kind of infrared thing, or maybe it's pitch black, and all of a sudden there's a just flashes of a firearm on the guy's face, and gone. We don't know. We don't know. So those are the messages. Those are going to be the ones that are going to count. So we're going to have to basically take all of this stuff that we believe and put it into 2-minute packages. And I can do some of these. I'm going to get to that in a minute too. So that's the basics of the thing. We'll have longer format stuff, which is background Chrome. Here's what it's like to live on the grid. Here's a commercial. Here's this. Here's that. So on. But the actual messaging is going to start out. We got to find some either public domain programming, or we're going to have to make our own programming. Very glossy, very, very glossy, and that's going to be like doo-doo-doo when you're in the middle of it. And common sense resistance, and bam, here's the message, here's the message, here's the message, cuts to black, back to your programming fades out. That's what the videos will look like on YouTube. That's it. Now, let's talk a little bit. I'm going to get to the real-world networking stuff, which I actually think is by far the most fun stuff. I think the content stuff is cool, but the real-world stuff in terms of making this happen, I think is what's really, really exciting about all this. So let's talk one more thing about the content. I'm going to do the first couple of them. And one of the reasons we need 510 subscribers, and we can't go until we get 510 subscribers. Just that simple. We just can't. But one of the things that we're going to need is we're going to need to build that prop. We're going to need locations. We're going to need mat work so that we can look occasionally on these home movies. We'll be able to look at the cities and see the hunter killer drones overhead and all this other stuff. We're going to need extras. We're going to need firearms. We're going to need uniforms for the bad guys. We need all this stuff. One of the things we're going to need is we're going to need makeup. And I'm going to do the first couple. And what we're going to do is we're going to age me 30 years. Probably, just as a salute to Battlestar Galactica, maybe I'll have an eye shot out or something, have an eye patch or a, gray kind of a, contact lens and scars, and hair will be longer and white and whatever, and I'll be all beat up. And I'm going to look 30 years older. Now, of course, we could save some money, and rather than going to all this trouble with the makeup, I could just watch the news for the next week or so. That'll probably age me 30 years, no problem. So I'm going to come in and do the first couple. But I'm not going to do them all. I shouldn't do them all. I don't want to do them all. We have a number of actors. There's a number of conservative outed actors out here who I think we can get to do some of this stuff. And they can make some appearances. There's a couple people I know who I'm almost positive will do it. And boy, I'll tell you, you see some of these names walk on the screen, it's going to blow your minds. It's going to blow your minds. But basically, I want to hire younger actors. I want to do like a home movie story of a guy who's wandering around. He's decided he wants to join the Common Sense Resistance. He finds his way into this thing. They frisk him. They take him to a thing. They make sure he's serious. And then there's some 70-year-old guy who was a medic during the Iraq War 25, 30 years ago, and he's kind of a gristled guy, and he's gonna make an incision, and he's gonna pull this chip out of your arm. And the kid says, he's a 20-year-old kid, 21-year-old kid. He says, do you have any anesthetics? And the guy says, yeah, we have some anesthetics, but not for you. Our anesthetics are for our soldiers. We're not giving you anesthetics. We only have a few of these things. We don't have many of these things. It's gonna hurt like hell. Do you want to do it? Yes or no? And he's going to basically, again, special effects makeup budget. He's going to basically make an incision. He's going to pour alcohol on it, give the kid a bullet to bite on. He's going to make an incision. He's going to reach in with a pair of surgical forceps and pull this thing out, and then he's going to stitch it up, and it's going to hurt like hell. And then that kid is going to be in the Common Sense Resistance. We don't have a God's eye view of him. We just have either he's shooting a selfie or he's got a friend with him, and then that guy can do political messages one day. Okay? You got it? That's how it's going to be. So we're going to introduce a number of different characters. And somebody pointed out this earlier, and it's absolutely essential that some of these people just get killed. Maybe one or two of them get killed on camera. Maybe they're just butt effects, and you just see the guy bleeding out. If we can make the message of freedom dangerous we'll win. Because it is dangerous. It is dangerous. Somebody out there mentioned a name, and since I didn't mention the name, I'm just reporting what somebody said here. Adam Baldwin, yeah. I don't know. And Nick Searcy. And Gary Graham and a couple of other guys. I think I got a good chance of getting Adam Baldwin. I don't know. He might. He's a friend. Nick Searcy certainly could do it because he's not working. You know, he's poor Nick Searcy. He'll do it for $20 to do anything. So we're going to get real actors, and we're going to get other real actors. I have a lot of friends out here who are actors, and we're going to get real actors to do this. And so it's not going to be all me. I'm going to write a lot of the scripts. But one of the great things I keep coming back to, I said it right at the beginning, I'm going to keep saying it, I'm not going to stop saying it. Open source, open source, open source, open source. I have to do the virtual presidency thing. I have a bunch of other commitments. I can't write all these things, but you guys can. Now, with that said, if we open the source to writing, to scripts that we're going to produce, the cold fact of the matter, and we have to come to grips with this, is for every 1,000 scripts we get, we're going to find one that we're going to use, and we're going to have 999 people who are brokenhearted and disappointed, and that's just the way it's going to have to be. But there's good news there too, and I'm going to get to that in a second. So we're going to produce the first of these things. We're going to do the scripts. We're going to break it down into bite-sized pieces. We're going to talk about gun ownership in a way that is sensible. Why do we have this gun? Why? Why do they want to take away our guns? Why? We're going to get all this stuff done in 2-minute messages. We're going to have all this Chrome come out. And these little political things are going to appear on everybody's TV sets. And the more dangerous they get, the more the state's going to come after them. And now you've got a story. Now you've got a story arc. So let's talk about, very briefly, about my character, because talking about my character is a great segue into the real-world role-playing aspects. So we got the content, right, that's in the box. This is what you actually see. Then below that, we have the real-world kind of role-playing. Role-playing makes it sound trivial, but it's not, because when I say role-playing, I'm talking about all of us, all of you watching this together, right? We're going to make this thing happen in the real world, and we're going to have fun doing it. It's going to be fun. We're going to have cells and call signs and all this other stuff. It's just be fun. Why not? It's a blast. God knows we got enough stuff in the world that we have to worry about that makes us miserable. Why don't we do something that's fun and cool? And since we have such a high percentage of military people, we get a chance to do it right, by the way. And that's why I put up a post about some of these call signs and stuff, and I think I understand it. And if I don't, I'll be corrected and I'll get it. But I think I'm pretty close. So now let's talk about this. Excuse me 1 second. It's Thirsty World. Work saving the world, isn't it, guys? All of us together here. Okay. Somebody said starfish. I'm going to come to that. There's a book called The Spider and the Starfish, I think, changed my life. I'll get to that in a minute. So I'm basically going to be a 30-year older. I'll be in my 70s or 80s or something, and I'm going to have a lot of battle scars, and they've been trying to kill me, and I may be kind of the, spokesperson, but excuse me, am I the leader of the Common Sense Resistance? No. Do you know who the leader of the Common Sense Resistance is? There is no leader of the Common Sense Resistance, and me, the Eminence Grease, the old lion guy, is not the leader of the Common Sense Resistance, and the young kid who comes in doesn't become the leader of the Common Sense Resistance, because there is no leader of the Common Sense Resistance. This is the power. Somebody just mentioned something in the comments stream. I was gonna do it. I was gonna credit it. I don't know if it's yours, Brent, or whether somebody wrote it on one of our comment sections earlier today, and one of the many things that we're going to put on a bumper sticker. This is so beautiful. Brent, let me know if it's you who wrote it. But one of the catchphrases is, I think the catchphrase of the Common Sense Resistance, I don't think we'll hear better than this, is, tyranny never sleeps, neither do we. That is a grand line. That's just a bloody grand, marvelous, marvelous, marvelous line. So here I am, this old kind of guy, and I'm kind of maybe the spiritual thing. Maybe I'm the Thomas Jefferson or something. Maybe I'm the this or the that. But I'm not the leader. There is no leader. So now let's get out of the content. Let's get out of what you see on the screen, because I own the Common Sense Resistance now as a YouTube channel, and I'll get to all this stuff. So we've got the content, we've got the role-playing games, and then on another level below that, we've got the rules. There are some real-world rules. Yeah. Somebody just said I just ruined my career, Marco Rubio style. Thank God for Marco Rubio. Every time I've gotten a drink on a podium since Marco Rubio, I've had a chance to get a great laugh line out of it. It's the blood of third world children. So let's talk about the real world. Sorry. Okay, somebody's got to drop something off that I have to just let in the house here. So now let's talk about the real world and how we're going to do this. I have had a lot of thoughts for a long time about what this kind of structure would look like and how it would work. Very serious thoughts for about 2 years now. And so I'm going to incorporate a lot of that, and then we will modify it and improve it based on your feedback. But here's the model. The model for the common sense resistance is the internet. When I do the very first of the videos, the first of the video is going to be called The Wrench. And the wrench is going to be about the common sense resistance in terms of how it is and how it's structured. And I'm going to say, okay, so the common sense resistance, you've got the leader up here. You got the central authority. This is the leader of the rebellion. He has a series of lieutenants. Each one of these lieutenants then goes down to sub-lieutenants. All of these sub-lieutenants go out to separate individual cells, and it's going to look like a giant organizational tree, vertically structured, very tight, very, very command-centered, very organized. And then I'm going to point to this, and I'm going to say, and this is exactly, precisely what we are trying to destroy. This is exactly what we're trying to destroy. The common sense resistance looks nothing like this. I'm just going to put a bunch of dots on another piece of metal with a magic marker, and I'm going to just connect them all together. I'm going to show people like a connection of webs, just like everything's connected to everything else. I'm going to say, which person, who's in charge here? Who's the leader of this? Who's in command here? Nobody. Nobody's in command. Now it starts to get really interesting, right? Now it starts to get interesting. What do you mean nobody's in command? Nobody's in command. What do you mean? What did I say? Nobody's in command. Well, how do things get done? Well, we have a philosophy, you see. We have a philosophy. We have goals. We have objectives. And we have self-motivated, highly competent, highly capable leaders. Everybody in the common sense resistance is a leader. Certainly every wrench leader is a reader. I'll get to that in a minute. So, how does this work? How does it work? How do you disorganize something enough to make it work? Well, here's what I'm thinking. So imagine, rather than a vertical, command structure like an army, you've got the commander-in-chief, you've got the Joint Chiefs of Staff, you've got the various 4 branches of the military, and then you've got your generals. You get generals have your colonels. The colonels go down, and you got the whole thing. Division, battalion, regiment, all the way down. So throw all that away. Everybody's a general and everybody's a private. There are no ranks, really. And the main thing about the common sense resistance is that there is no coercion. None. No coercion. It's all volunteer or else it doesn't work. It has to be all volunteer all the time or it doesn't work. Little side note here. During the Civil War, when they started raising the volunteer regiments, did this in World War I as well, when they started the Kitchener's Army of Volunteers and the PALS regiments. In both those wars, at least early on, the volunteer regiments elected their own officers. And you would have thought that they would have elected people who would have gone easy on them, who wouldn't have demanded a lot of discipline. But that was not the case at all, never was the case. They all understood, everybody in the regiment, everybody in the volunteer group understood that we have to pick the best guy to be our leader, because if we don't, we're all going to die. They're volunteers anyway. So it turned out that it was actually an extremely efficient and extremely effective way of picking leaders. People just voluntarily agreed to serve them, to follow them. And that's what leadership is, right? It's the difference between leadership and control and tyranny. A leader says, follow me. And a tyrant says, go out there and do this. So it is a meritocracy. It's constantly evolving, constantly changing. So the question is not who makes the decisions, who commands things. That's not how it works. Since every one of these nodes is independent, but since we all have a common philosophy and have common goals, political goals, in the future world we have common, objectives, right? So what happens is there's an objective, whatever it is. Let's just say the objective is we want to blow up a radio station or something. And I have to be careful about that too. I'll deal with that in a minute. But just say for the sake of the argument. So the word goes out over the entire network. Again, it doesn't go up through hierarchy. It doesn't come down through hierarchy. It just goes out. It goes out over the network that this thing is a problem. And then what happens is each one of these individual nodes makes a decision about what they can do to help or this particular project. And then these nodes communicate with each other because they're communicating with each other all the time. and it self-assembles. I have to take a quick detour. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but it's important. I saw this happen in my own eyes very, very quickly. Back in the days of little green footballs, before Charles Johnson went crazy, just before the 2004 election, CBS ran a story about George Bush being AWOL from the Texas Air National Guard, and they had a memo to prove it. It was basically a memo written in 1968 and said George Bush blah 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 blah. It was the evidence, right? And Dan Rather ran on it. It was 3 weeks before the election. Imagine that. So they put this memo online as the evidence of their story, and a guy named Buckhead, I think it was, Buckhead or Buckeye, Buckhead, I think, over at Free Republic, took a look at this and he said, isn't that interesting? It says the whatever the number was, 168th Texas Air National Guard, but the TH wasn't a big T and a big H. It was the little uppercase TH. And they said, how did they do that on a typewriter? In the old days on a typewriter, you had to type the T and you had to type the H. And then so somebody else said, yeah, that's a little funny. And then Charles Johnson himself basically took the memo, the supposed 1968 memo, wrote it out in Microsoft Word, didn't change any of the defaults, didn't change anything, printed it, did a one-on-one copy to it, and realized that it came exactly out of Microsoft Word without any of the changes being made, and they just weathered it to make it look older. It's a one-on-one match off of Microsoft Word because the little TH, because that little upper say thing that the computer does but that a typewriter doesn't. If you remember a typewriter, you had to write TH, right? So here's what's interesting. So rather than CBS News counterattack and say, oh, this is all coming from the White House and blah, 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 of course it could have been done, it could have been done. And they start talking about typesetting typewriters that were $8,000 and could have done this. Makes you wonder why a guy who's in a junior level dude in a barrack someplace in the Texas Air National Guard has an $8,000 typesetting computer. Doesn't really pass the smell test, does it? But what's interesting about this was everybody came in on it, and I'll never forget this as long as I live. Somebody said, well, you could do it with an IBM Selectric if you did this and this and this. And another guy said, no, you can't do it with the IBM Selectric. And the guy said, how do you know? The guy said, because I'm the chief engineer of the IBM Selectric. I designed the IBM Selectric. I worked for IBM for 42 years or whatever. Now that is cool. And so the CBS News said, who's coordinating this? Who's putting this together? It's got to be coming from the Bush White House. Is it Rove? Is it the CIA? Who's coordinating this thing? Nobody coordinated it. They found out about it through the grapevine, and people brought their own expertise to it. They brought their own analysis, brought their own criticism, put it together. It was an expert system about a typewriter. Came together for the purpose of this thing, and after it was done, poof, gone. Gone. It's self-assembled. It's self-assembled for a specific mission. The pieces came together for the mission. The very best pieces came together for the mission, executed the mission perfectly, and the second the mission was over, it dissolved back into the vapor. That's power. That's power in the information age. That's how it's got to work. So, if you imagine the common sense resistance in the real world, and also in the fictional world, as a series of nodes, there is no central node. There is no command node. There's nothing. How do you take down a system like that? You can't. You can't. It's one of the reasons why the left has so much problem attacking the Tea Party. They attack the Tea Party as a group, and they've done a great job of demonizing it. But what they really wanted was they wanted to demonize somebody, and Sarah Palin was the closest thing to a Tea Party leader, so they went after Sarah Palin and destroyed her. But there is no Tea Party leader. There's no Tea Party spokesman. They're all independent groups. Well, they used to be anyway. And how dare you, we don't speak for the Tea Party. We speak for the Upper Madison, Wisconsin Tea Party. That's all we are. See, this is really powerful. There's a book, as I said, called, I think it's called The Spider and the Starfish. And they talked about how when authority comes after a rebel structure, if that rebel structure decentralizes, it makes it harder for the power and authority. And if they keep coming, they make it even harder. And the example they used was Napster. So let's talk about this just real quick. Napster, as you may know, was basically a way for you to sort of pool your music. So let's say I buy an album and I upload the album to Napster, and you become a member of Napster and you upload an album. So you get my songs for free and I get your songs for free. I paid for one album, you get all my songs. You paid for an album, I get all your songs. Fantastic. Free music, right? Well, the record industry said, no, we don't like this very much. So they went after Napster and they sued them and they won. They basically pulled Napster down. And the reason they pulled Napster down was because Napster was somebody you could go after. It was something that was actionable. It was a target. I talked about this a little bit in Bamboo Spears. This is how we have to act now. We have to act like the VC. I'd rather be the Air Force, but we have to act like the VC. So Napster was a target. So they hit the target, destroyed the target. So then what happened? Well, then I'm going to have to paraphrase because I don't remember it super, super well. Then there were a number of different servers that offered this service, right? And so then they started going after those guys, but it was much harder because, number one, there were a lot more of them. Number two, they didn't have the kind of deep pockets that Napster had. So it got harder to do that. And then they started taking some of these sites down. And then finally what they did was they realized, you know what, we're going to write software that's going to allow my computer, my personal computer, to talk to other people who have this software. And so therefore, there's no one company to sue. There's no 5 companies to sue. Literally every single user now, Napster got decentralized from 1 place down to 5 places down to 100,000 places. And the more the music industry came after them, the harder it got for them to enforce it. And finally, when you have millions of people using their own computers to do what they were doing before on Napster, it not only becomes not cost effective, it becomes impossible to stop this kind of thing. So that was an example they used in the starfish, I think the spider and the starfish. And it was a great example. I never forgot it. So this is really what we're doing, right? We're talking about decentralizing this whole thing. So let's talk about the role-playing game aspect of it. And again, I don't want that to sound demeaning, because it's not demeaning. It's fun. And by the way, if this thing ever really does have to come into the real world, we're going to need all these things. So here's how I think we need to do this. And I think there do need to be some... Look, let me say this. There need to be some kind of rules. If you want to work outside the rules, not only can it not stop you, I'm happy to have you work outside the rules. But then it's not canon, right? Then it's not official. Then it doesn't go up on the official site. Flattery is the most sincere form I'm sorry, imitation is the most sincere form of flattery. But I think for us to have this make sense and have it function enough so that we can grow it, this is how I'm thinking we would structure this thing in the real world. So we talk about a network where every node is equal and all the nodes are connected. So what is a node? Well, first of all, I want a node to be have a name. And now we get into the symbology and the mythology of it that gets actually very interesting. So let's have a look at this for a second. Okay, there's our common sense resistance spanner. I did switch it. Thanks for the feedback. It's a right hand holding a wrench. A wrench is not a weapon. A wrench is something that fixes something. It's not being held as a weapon. If you were going to hold it as a weapon, you'd hold it on the end so you can bash somebody's head with it. A wrench is capability. It's the ability to fix things. So what we're going to do, since we have a mythology to maintain, and since we have a universe to make, and since we have to, we want to add as much Chrome as we can because the Chrome is cool and Chrome is fun. What we're going to do is we're going to call each one of these nodes a wrench. That's going to be our nickname. Each node is going to be called a wrench. Okay? And each node, at least this is how I see it, each node is going to consist of 5 individual members. 5. No more than 5. 5 people make up a cell, or a node if you want to call it a node. 5 people in a cell. We'll call the cell a wrench. Each one of the wrench has 5 fingers, and we're going to call each individual member of the wrench, we'll call him a plumber. So you, as a member of the Common Sense Resistance, will be a plumber. Now the question is, what wrench are you going to be attached to? What cell? Now here's the beauty. You can be attached to as many damn cells as you want to. You can attach yourself to as many wrenches as you want to. There's no limit to it. The only limit is how much can you capably do, and when do you become a drain on the system. So let's say that each one of these nodes has 5 people in it, and that's it. There's 5 fingers on a hand, there's 5 points on a star, there's 5 fingers around a wrench. So the wrench is a node. Now what does the wrench actually do? Well, it depends. It's up to you. You form your own nodes. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm not going to tell you we need this or that. It's not up to me. I'm not organizing anything. You're not organizing it either. It's going to organize itself. Just you watch. So here's how it goes. I'm gonna for the canon stuff, for the official stuff, you do whatever you want to off by yourself, but it will not have the same power as what we all do together. Of that I'm quite sure. So here's how it's going to work. I'm going to, if we can get the 510 subscribers, we can do the video and keep this doing. So here's what I'm thinking I'm going to do. Somebody emails me, we'll have an email address specifically for this. If somebody emails me with 5 valid email addresses, and you may want to think about setting up, in fact, I'd recommend you set up a new email account for this specifically. But if I get 5 email addresses, one person, let's say Dave Adams, writes me, says, "Hey Bill, how are you? I've got me and 4 other people. We want to start a common sense resistance node. We want to be a wrench. If I have 5 valid email addresses, I will then officially make that a node. It'll be a wrench. It'll be a node on the common sense resistance thing. Now, here's another thing that's kind of cool. When you start talking about what are these nodes, individual nodes and wrenches going to be called, now it gets interesting. Most people think that I'm virtually sure about this. I know we have some fighter pilots actually watching this, but most people think that when you become a fighter pilot, you get to pick your own call sign. I don't think that's how it works. I think the squadron picks your sign for you. Somebody picks it for you, because otherwise it'd be nothing but Eagles and Falcons and Mavericks and that. But they're not. Actual real world call signs are like Rat and Thumper and Mud and all this other stuff. So they're assigned to you. And one of the things I've learned about military operations, not too distant future, was that they often assign a randomly generated code name. And the reason you have to randomly generate a code name is because if you pick your own code name, you will bring your prejudices into it. You will help the enemy because you will have such a strong emotional attachment to a code name that either you think sounds cool or has some kind of reflection on the mission you want to do, and you're going to be very clever about it. The Germans during World War II were notorious for this. They had a giant bombing raid coming up, and they named it Moonlight Sonata. And they had a series of crossing radio beams that allowed them to talk to put their bombers over a target in the middle of the night, and they called it X-Gadget. And British intelligence had an enormous head start because these Germans had code names that they just thought were so cool. You know, the move thing was called the Scythe Sweep or something. That was their move, their army move across Belgium. They're telegraphing what it's about. And so, since everybody would want to come in with me and we say, "Hey, Bill, we want to be a node, and we want to be Banshee node, or we want to be this node, or we want to be that node." No, I think it's much more interesting, much more realistic, much more believable, and in the end, trust me on this, much cooler if you get a node name that is randomly assigned to you. Now, in role-playing games, it's a great example of this. In role-playing games, when you create a character, it's a randomly generated character, and some names are going to be out of bounds, like some characters are just so weak you can't do it. But let's say you have a character, you roll up a character who just randomly has an intelligence of 20 and an education of 3. That character is less effective in the game than he would be if he had an intelligence of 20 and an education of 20. He was an education of 3. But it tells you something about the character. He's very bright, but he's not educated, or he's very educated, not bright. These kind of things. You can build your own Chrome into the randomness. You get this thing randomly. It's like, okay, what do I do with this? What do I make of it? So, somebody just wrote something very cool. Box Oyster Black wrote, "Every disguise is a self-portrait." Exactly. Exactly. You will choose a disguise that can give you away. So, the way I see the rules of this thing going are, in the real world now, if you want to become a member of the Common Sense Resistance, you don't have to pay me any money. I'm not going to charge anybody for this. That's low, and it's cheap, and it limits it. It's just not right. Actually, Viper Check here, I knew we'd hear from him as an actual fighter pilot, says your call sign is not something you like. It's something meant to keep your ego in check. It's something meant to actually stop you from thinking you're Maverick or Iceman or Eagle or Star Killer. That's exactly right. It's something to keep you humble. And so here's how I think this will work in the real world. We're going to have a contact information when we get our 510 members, guys. We're going to have contact information, and if you can supply me with 5 email addresses of real people, then you will be assigned a random name, a random word, and it will be less than 3 syllables, and it will be, certain words will be out of bounds. We're not going to do stupid words, and we're not going to do words that are misleading. But you'll just get a random thing. And then that'll be your node. That'll be your wrench. Those 5 people will be the wrench. I'll tell you how all the call signs and all this other stuff works out. So I've got a random word generator up here. Let's have a look at the first 10 words that come up. Okay, so I get an email. Somebody's got 5 emails, and I say, "Congratulations, you are now registered as you are CSR Continuous. You are CSR Pageant. You're CSR Creepy, CSR Patient, CSR Ebony, CSR Bent, CSR Iron. Your CSR Blunder, CSR, I'm skipping some here. Profits, CSR Garden, Heatstroke, Barnyard, Robber, Scanner." Yeah, Scanner could be mistaken. Danger is a little tricky too, so we got to filter some of these out. But you get the idea, right? Brutish, fracture, bait. I'll give you just a couple more. Your wrench name is you are CSR filthy. You are CSR cage. You're CSR meat. You're CSR heat stroke. That's the name of your wrench, of your 5-person node. Now let's say you have 7 people. What does that do? Well, you can't have a node of 7 people. Not in this world you can't. So if you have 7 people, what that means is you have 5 people in your wrench, in your node, and the 2 people who want to be a part of it have to go get 3 other people. And when they get 3 other people, they can communicate to me, and they'll get their own code name and so on. Now, I think if you really want to run with this thing, I can't pay for this, obviously, but we are going to open source everything. We're going to give you the stencils. We're going to give you all this stuff. Then, let's say that you've got 5 names and you really want to go with this and have some fun. You got some friends who'd be kind of into it, and you're CSR gifted. Okay? That's your name. You're CSR gifted. Now, if you want to, if it's up to you, of course, you could go out and register a domain name that says CSR_gifted.com. And then you can put up your own graphics. You can put up your own videos. I can't control what you put up on your own website, on your own YouTube channel, all that stuff. But you're a node. Now, we get to the fun stuff. Well, it's all fun stuff, frankly. So, you got 5 people in a node, right? 5 fingers on the hand. You got 5 points on a star. You got 5 fingers in your node. You've registered your 5 emails with me. By the way, this is all I'm going to ask of you. Okay? What I'm going to get out of this financially in order to run this whole thing and keep this thing running is the email list. It's just that simple. I'm going to get an email list, and I'm going to push emails out once every week or month or whatever saying, hey, I hope you're having fun with the Common Sense Resistance. We're looking for subscribers at billwhittle.com. Boom. But because we're talking about decentralizing this thing, I think that the membership list, I think that the email list goes out to everybody. If you've got a node, you don't have to come through me. If you've got a node, you've got the current email of all the people that are in the network. Every single node knows the location of every other node. I don't want to focus this. I can't focus it. It's wrong to focus it. I want to let it go. I just want to let it run. So think about that. So you actually have your own email list. Can you market your own stuff on that email list? I suppose you can in the real world. If you're sending out 5,000 advertisements a day, people will just block you. That's how it works. It builds itself. It monitors itself. Okay. So now let's talk about the nomenclature. So let's say that my node, my wrench, that I start, I get a random number. Let's just say it's Buick. So I'm CSR Buick. Okay. Now, as it turns out, I'm also going to be. We'll just leave it for the time. I get to that in a second. So I'm CSR Buick, and I'm the first person who signs up for Buick. So I'm Buick 1. Somebody said, can you have one under 5? No, you can't have one under 5, and you can't have one over 5. You got to have 5. If you can't do that, find out somebody else. Hook up with them in the comments section on billwhittle.com or on Facebook. Find 3 other people. Start your own node. 5. No more, no less. Less than that means it's not effective. More than that means it's time to start a new node. I thought this through. So let's say I'm part of a wrench, and my assigned name is Buick. All right, and I'm the first guy to join. I was the first guy to sign up. I'm Buick 1. Second guy to sign up is Buick 2. Third guy's Buick 3. Fourth guy's Buick 4. Fifth guy's Buick 5. Those are the code names. That's how you communicate in the Common Sense Resistance. You don't get to say I'm Red Dog 9. You're Buick 3. That's your assigned code name. Okay, you're Buick 3. That's who you are. Now here's the beautiful thing. Let's say you're part of a wrench named Buick, and I'll get to what these wrenches do, but you're part of that wrench. But you've got something else you want to do. Maybe you want to get together with a bunch of pilots. Maybe you think it'd be fun to have a pilot ring. So you can get together 4 other pilots. You come and you send me an email. I'll give you a new random word. You're now CSR Barber. So you're not only Buick 3, you're also Barber 1. You can do this as long as you want to. See how hard this makes to infiltrate? What's your code name? Well, my code name depends on who I'm talking to. I have several code names. And if somebody calls me by a certain code name, I know automatically what my relationship is, because if I'm Buick 3 and I'm also, Barber 1, if somebody sends out a code for Barber 1, I know, well, that's the flying node. That's the flying wrench. See? It's really cool. It's very, very cool. So each wrench, each 5-person node has 5 people in it. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Your Buick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, the contact person for that wrench, for that node, is by definition, help me out here, military guys, I'm pretty sure I got this right. I may be slightly off. The contact person is Buick 6. There is no Buick 6, right? There are no 6 people, but whoever the contact person is, let's say it's Buick 3. He's the contact person. Buick 3 is also Buick 6. The contact information will always go out to 6. It'll go to Buick 6. It'll go to Barber 6. It'll go to all those other guys. Any emails that come through the network can't go out to everybody on the network. They have to go out to the communication guy on that node. That's 6. So you may be Buick 3, but you're designated by vote or however you want to structure your thing. If you want to have it a vote, you want to be a representative democracy. If you want your wrench to be a total dictatorship, none of my business. I don't care. Set it up however you want to. But you're going to have a contact person. That's going to be Buick 6. Here's what's really interesting. If you decide that you want to have a group leader, and it's probably easier that way, you could make the group leader the contact person, in which case, let's say Buick 1 for the sake of the argument. Buick 1 is the leader of the group. Okay? If you want to make him the person who you contact, then you say it goes to Buick 6. He becomes Buick 6 in the contact. But if you want to talk to the leader of the group, then Buick 1 becomes Buick 6 actual. If you want to talk directly to the leader rather than to the contact person, if you say, hey, listen, I am speaking as the leader of this wrench now. I may not be the normal contact guy. I may not be the normal 6, but I am Buick 6 actual. Then you know you're getting a communication from the guy who's the leader of that particular node. It's just fun. It's just cool. It just sounds cool, right? Somebody said it's Buick Actual or Buick 6 Actual. Maybe it's Buick Actual. I don't know. Somebody's going to correct me on this. Maybe Buick 6 is the contact guy and Buick Actual is the leader of the group. I'm not quite sure about this. I've seen it both ways. We'll get it sorted out. I'm not worried about it right now, but it's cool. Let's just say it's Buick Actual. It sounds cooler. Okay? So now we've got a node that's perfectly set up. So what do these nodes, what do these wrenches do? What does each individual plumber do in a wrench? What is the wrench for? Now it gets kind of cool. So what kind of wrenches are there? What kind of nodes are there? Well, I wrote a couple down, but don't be limited to me. There could be a recruiting node. There could be a wrench that does nothing but recruit other people. That's what they do. They find people. They show them some of the videos. They get them organized. You know, let's say that CSR Robot is a recruiting node, and CSR Robot gets 5 people together. They send them in. We send them a new thing. They become a new node. CSR Robot gets another 5 people, send them in. They become a new node. They're a recruiting node. Maybe one of them is a philosophy node. One of them just works on messaging, right? One of them is maybe one of these guys is a coin node, counterintelligence node. Maybe one of these nodes, one of these wrenches, does nothing but look for false flag stuff, infiltration. Look for people that are trying to get into the system. Look for people who are setting up a CSR node and using it to go out and do awful things. Well, we need to know that, and then we can isolate them and we can cut them off the system, and we can put out a public notice somewhere and say these guys that are calling themselves us are not us at all. They're infiltrators, and they're trying to make us look bad, like they do when they supply their own racist Tea Party groups because they can't find real racists at Tea Party groups. Look, one of them might be a security node. Maybe there's just a bunch of tough guys out there, and you know we need tough guys. I'm going to get to that in a minute. There's some danger here. We have to be careful. Not worried about the state so much. I'm worried about our own corruption. So a philosophy node would work on messaging. A black ops node, black ops wrench would be really cool. Those would be people who would go out there and start messing with these guys in the way that they mess with us. Because I'm ready to fight these guys on their level. I'm happy to fight honorably against honorable opponents, but when you're playing with people who cheat and lie and multiply their votes and slander and libel, then I want black ops. I want people who want to win this thing. We'll get to the philosophy of this in a minute. Okay, so look, and as I said, maybe there's just a group of pilots who decide, yeah, what, it wouldn't be a bad idea if we had a bunch of us with our own airplanes. That could come in useful someday. And this is where it gets to be something that could actually happen in the real world, because let's just say, for the sake of an argument, there's a terrible flood someplace or a terrible fire or whatever, you know, something. We could have nodes in place. We'd have guys who, yeah, there's a fire in Omaha. Do we have any nodes out? Do we have any wrenches in Omaha? We got 6 wrenches. We got a wrench that just happens to be composed of firefighters. We got a bunch of guys that are doing this. What can they do in their own time? Here's 5 guys have their own airplane or airplanes. this can actually really do some good in the real world if this thing really takes off. So what does a wrench do? It's not up to me. I don't care. It's none of my business. And I'm not going to have official categories. Maybe you are a book review wrench. I don't care. It's all about the networking. It's all about community. And you don't have to be in the same physical presence. Obviously, needless to say, the other 4 people in your wrench could be scattered all over the world. Maybe you have an interest in Robert E. Lee, and you're a historical wrench. Do you have to do anything? No. Do you have to produce anything? No. Do you have to pay any dues? Hell no. No. You don't have to pay dues. Nothing. You don't have to do anything. Nothing. I will monetize this off of the email list. I'm not charging anybody. You don't have to be a subscriber to set up your own node. You don't have to do any of that stuff. I can't do the content until we get the 510 members. I know I got to keep coming back to saying that, but I can't do the content until we have those members. But once the thing is up and running, the more restrictions I put on this thing, the quicker it dies in the crib. And this is my lesson that I've learned. I am not going to put any restrictions on this thing. You don't have to pay. I'm not going to charge you. I don't own it. It's not mine. Another example in the Starfish and the Spider was the example they used of Alcoholics Anonymous. Basically, they said when Alcoholics Anonymous was formed and was starting to do a lot of good, a lot of other people wanted to set up other chapters. And some people advised Bill W., hey man, you've got something here. What you need to do is you need to copyright the book. You need to copyright the 12 steps. You need to license 12-step programs to the various people. They can pay you a small royalty or something. You license it. You'll have official books. You'll push all these books out. You'll have the official stuff, and you'll have official content, and that way you'll be able to make a little bit of money on the books. And that way you'll sure that everything's uniform and everything's done exactly the way you want it, and all this other stuff. And he made a very compelling case. People made a very compelling case towards him that this is the way to go. And he said, no, we're not going to do that. We're gonna just give it to people. It works for us. If they want to change it, they can change it. But this is what works for us. And we're not going to charge them. We're not going to license it. We're not going to do royalties and all that stuff. This is too important for that. And so he didn't. And guess what? Did the 12-step program splinter off into 5,000 different 12-step programs? No. Not only did Alcoholics Anonymous not change as more and more individual chapters, as individual meetings took place, not only did Alcoholics Anonymous not change, it became the Bible. It couldn't change. Not because anybody enforced it. Nobody said, we're going to sue you if you change these things, if you make it 13 steps. No, they said, do whatever you want. That has power. And so people did it for the right reason. As somebody just pointed out, Doug Saxon pointed out, virtue. It's because they did it virtuously. And not only did it work for Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Gamblers Anonymous, Overeaters Anonymous, they're all the same thing. Same 12 steps in the same order. They just gave it away, and that's what we're going to do. I can monetize the cost of doing this just by having an email list that I can occasionally push stuff out. But guess what? You can push stuff out too, right? That's why I recommend you probably set up your own independent email address for this, because you can get a lot of things. And look, if a node is spamming people, send them a note saying, hey, stop spamming me or take me off your list. And if they really get too bad, just block them. If they're really abusing it, we'll knock them off the official list, and they don't get sent out the next time people get the update on the list. We're going to have to keep the update on the list. Got to keep it somewhere. So we keep sending it out, right? So Viper Jack, for those of you who came in late, we took a look at the budget of doing the content, of doing the actual content, of going out and shooting 4 of these things a month and having one come out a week, and it's going to take about 500 subscribers. 510 subscribers is the number we came up with from when this show started. That's what we need in order to start producing this stuff. We can lay the groundwork, though. We're going to get those subscribers. Not worried about that. Okay, so that's basically how it works. So you basically you send me a 5-email list, and bam, you are now a CSR Fang, or you are CSR Entropy, or your CSR Section, or your CSR Nomad, or your CSR Contrast, and then off you go. And then what do you do with it? It's none of my business. I don't care. I do care. Actually, I care very much. But I don't control it. You don't have to ask me permission. Can we put up this on our website? Put up whatever you want on your website. Can we do this? Can we make our own video? Of course. Of course. Now, if we're going to put a video on the official Common Sense Resistance channel on YouTube, that's something I'm going to have to approve, because I own that. That's my reputation and my name. But I can't. Not only can I not stop you from putting one up where you want to, I want you to. And people say, well, what if people start copying this? Great. And what if people start mocking it? Fabulous. Let me just deal very quickly with this. We've seen this a couple times from several different people, so I know it must be a fairly common concern because it's raised a number of times. People will say, well, the problem with the name common sense resistance is that the left is going to mock us by saying, oh, they're resisting common sense. Don't you want that fight? I do. I want that fight more than anything. Why do you think I chose that name? I didn't say the conservative resistance. I didn't say it was the liberty resistance. I didn't say it was the Tea Party resistance. I said it was the common sense resistance. So what I want is I want people to say, oh, there's a bunch of idiots. They're resistant to common sense. You really want to have that argument with us? Do you really? What are we about? Aren't we about, you can't spend more money than you take in. If you want to be left alone, you have to behave yourself. If somebody gives you all of your food, all of your housing, all of your medical care, and takes all of your work, what do you call a person like that? Bring it on. We've been beaten up so badly by the media, Republicans and conservatives, that we fear the media. But we're going to do some judo on the media. We're going to use the power of the media against them. We're going to make them bring their full force against us, and then we're going to get out of their way, and we're going to trip them as they go running by. We're going to use their ability and their desire to destroy us to get us the publicity we need in order to succeed. This is called swordlessness. It's a Sun Tzu concept. He says basically the ultimate form of the warrior is a guy who can walk into the enemy camp without a weapon and defeat them because he uses their own weapons against them. I like the sound of that. Somebody just over here, who was it, Ada 608, I think, he's got a great Ronald Reagan thing, said, the math doesn't work to have millions of nodes with one-word call sign. I thought about that too. Nada, I'm looking at this random word generator. It says 179,000 words in the database. If we have 179,000 nodes and we run out of words, each one of those nodes has 5 people, then we will do double call signs. And you will have the honor of having a single call sign. That means you were established early. So then you will become, all you have to do is add a color, right? If there's Buick and you're red Buick, now you've got another 179,000. You add if you're yellow Buick or whatever, that's a problem. Well, that's a high-class problem, and a very easily solved problem. And if you got a single word, CSR wrench, congratulations, you got in early. So anyway. What kind of wrenches will there be? I don't know, and it's not up to me. I don't know. You're going to know. There's 100,000 people who are going to hopefully get this message, and they're going to put their thoughts into it, and I can't pause. See, this is the essence of the whole idea, right? Isn't this the essence of anti-elitism? We have a network that doesn't have a command structure. Am I talking about being the leader of this movement? On the contrary, I am not. I'm talking about a movement that doesn't have a leader. I could have some influence because because I can flap my jaws, but I don't have any authority. The only authority I have is coerce. I have the ability to not coerce, to convince people. I have the authority to convince them. I have the authority to make them voluntarily want to follow or listen. I don't have the authority to coerce people. There's no coercion in the network anywhere at all. None. Zero. None. So that's basically it. There's one more thing I want to say, and I'll see if I can take some of these questions. I know we're going to run really late tonight, but it's a great subject, so I might be able to take a couple of them if I fly through them. Let me just say this one thing, and we'll get into this more as we get into it. In the videos, but most especially in the real world, we have to have a fundamental understanding, and frankly, to the degree that we can look, all I can do is cut people out of the can, and I can't stop you from doing whatever you want to, but I can take people off the mailing list because I've got my name on this thing. So here's our philosophy. Okay, we got to really get this in our bones, and it's not easy. Believe me. You're talking about a guy who likes to fight. You're talking about a guy who, speaking to me, who just hates and abhors what's going on, and doesn't see these people in charge. I see most Americans as being just not knowing any better, but I think the people in charge are actually evil people and doing this on purpose, destroying everything good on purpose. I really believe that. But we have to understand this has to be the philosophy of the common sense resistance. We have to hate tyranny, but not people. And we have to sabotage philosophies, but not structures. There's a world where we get painted as a terrorist organization. They're already trying to do that with the Tea Party. We cannot be seen to be talking about shooting up people, and we can't be seen to be talking about blowing things up, because that is, in fact, a terrorist organization. I'm not going to have any part of that. Okay? We can have self-defense. We have that right guaranteed us under the Constitution. One of the possible wrenches could be a training wrench. I think, the idea that this thing becomes kind of a militia where everybody owns their own arms, and you get 5 guys who are veterans or, firearms instructors, and these guys say, hey, man, if anybody's in the, in Northern California region or whatever, we can meet on Thursdays, and all the nodes that want to be a part of it, all you wrenches coming out, we'll give you firearms training. I think that's fantastic. But the philosophy of the common sense resistance has to be that we hate tyranny but not people. We're not threatening people. We're not going to talk about people. And ultimately now we get to the real essence of it. And that is this. Put aside the morality of it and listen. I want to be crystal clear on this, guys. If there's anybody who is sick and disgusted and angry and furious about what's being done to this country by individuals, you're looking at them, and I know you feel the same way. But we have to understand some very simple mathematics, and it's the mathematics of victory. Okay? If we silence an opponent, they're down 1. If we convert an opponent, they're down 1 and we're up 1. It's twice as effective. We have to convert people. We have to win them over. And that's what these videos are about. It's about winning people's over. It's about changing their minds. It's about getting to people who are not in the choir. The virtual presidency is to activate the choir. It's to activate conservatives and give them something to believe in. This is to go and get the heathen. This is to convert the heathen. And so from a political point of view, from a real world, actual legal point of view, I won't tolerate any kind of physical threats. I won't tolerate any kind of talk about this thing in terms of this. And in the content, these people are not going to be blowing up buildings. I said blow up a radio station earlier. I caught myself there, and I meant to. We can jam it, but we're not going to be violent. We're not going to be. But we will defend ourselves, and they will defend themselves in this video. I mean, some of this has got to be action adventure, right? We're not just going to sit there and get shot at. Somebody comes into some underground thing, starts shooting at some of our guys, we're going to shoot back. But if we do shoot back and we kill some soldiers or not even soldiers, whatever, the goons of the police state, you got to show some remorse over this. These are Americans. It's not their fault that they've been given this pablum their entire life. It's not their fault that they've been indoctrinated. You know whose fault it is? It's our fault. It's our fault because we let it happen. That's whose fault it is. It's our fault that this country is so far gone as it is. I don't blame people for voting for Obama. I blame me for letting them vote for Obama. I wonder what I was doing with my entire life before I started getting into this thing. I saw the signs. We all saw the signs. That's not our problem. It's our problem now. But remember, folks, we hate tyranny, but we don't hate people. We sabotage philosophies. We don't sabotage structures. We are a philosophical rebellion. And that's got to be in the movement every step of the way. It's got to be clear. We're going to win through truth, and we're going to win through reason. Brent says right here. Logic, all those things. Passion, desire, perseverance, all those things. It is a philosophical movement. And the ability to learn how to defend ourselves is not a right granted to us by the common sense resistance, the right we have as Americans. And to the degree that it's a constitutional freedom, we're going to exercise it. We're going to exercise our right to free speech too. But we got to be careful, because they will try to portray us as this Nazi underground. And I'm ready to have that Nazi argument with anybody. I'd love to have them say to me, you're a Nazi, when I'm talking about individuality, lack of structure, no leader, no cult of personality, no official, anything. I'm all about that. Right? So that's really important. Okay, so look, that's the basics of it. I'm going to take the questions as fast as I can. I don't know if I can get through all of them. I can run a little long tonight, but I'm going to just run through them here as quickly as I can. So some of these I've already answered, and I'll just crash through them as fast as I can and just make short work of them, because I think I've done all the elaborating I probably need to. So let's deal with some specific questions and like some observations here. So Andy Schnick says, can we, like the Tea Party, have local CSRs? Yes, just covered that. Not only can you, I expect you to. Won't work without it. 5 people, you're a wrench. Yeah, 7 people, get the other 2 to find another 3. Go online, go to the comment section. I'm sure we'll have a CSR website. You know, if people want to just join any wrench, or who will probably, look, we're going to work on all this stuff, and we'll probably have a nice, really great, cool website, and you know, and it's like, here's a list of people, you know, this guy's this, and he lives in this, and sign him up, boom, congratulations, send me the 5 emails, bam, you are now CSR banquet. Yes, You can. Robert Stephenson III says, America's always loved an underdog. I think conservatism needs to become the righteous underdog fighting the good fight if it is to regain its place in the culture. I agree. It's often easier to portray powerful, centralized elites as the villain. I agree. Who wants the elite, by the way? Who are the elites? Who wants power? Who wants control? Who wants to run your life? It's not us, man. Who's offering you all this comfort in exchange for all your freedoms? Not us. It's them. So in this way, the massive size and power of our federal government can be used against itself. This is the essence of this third wave strategy. This is the essence of guerrilla fighting, but ultimately it's the essence of genuine swordlessness. You use the enemy's strengths against themselves. You use their media control for publicity. You use their ability to want to infiltrate us to set them up for whatever, counterintelligence we want to, whatever. We use their strengths against them. We don't fight them head to head. We don't sit in a trench and fire machine guns and mortars and stuff at each other and try to win this thing by attrition. We go not to where they're weakest. We don't even hit them where they're weakest. According to Boyd, we hit them where they least expect it. So now all of a sudden, instead of this big offensive they're going to launch on the front lines, they look back and there's an ammo dump 70 miles in their rear that's just suddenly exploded. How the hell did that happen? Send some troops over there. Nobody's there. They're gone. Where'd they go? Nobody knows. Oh, what do you know? A bridge 700 miles away has just been blown into the river. I'm speaking rhetorically here. Who did that? I don't know. Who's got the initiative now? And who's lost the initiative now? That's what this whole thing is, man. This thing is about regaining the cultural initiative through special operations forces. That's it. We don't have standing armies. We don't have the Air Force. We don't have the media. We don't have the tanks. We don't have the newspapers. We have to be special forces guys. We have to be light, fast, efficient, quick, and philosophically lethal, and then we got to get the hell out of there. So that's the theory. John Miller says, how do you control... I'm sorry, he finished. He said, the power of the federal government can be used against itself. The CSR would be a perfect historic underdog in the American story. Americans love an underdog. We will always be the underdog. When people say, how do I join the common sense resistance, you say it's not made for you. I don't think you can handle it. You'd be too unpopular. I don't think you're smart enough. Watch what that does to people. John Miller says, how do you control the message? The first thing the liberal media will do is brand CSR as a resistance to common sense. Fine. Let them call us a resistance to common sense. Have somebody on the show. They're always looking for Tea Party people. We'll have a common sense resistance spokesman. I'm sure we can find somebody. And they will say, are you the leader? No, there's no leader. You guys are so anti-common sense. Really? We think if you spend more money than you take in, you're going to go broke. What do you think? And just be prepared, and we'll just go and destroy them. We'll destroy them. I want them. I want that fight. That's why I chose the name. I want that fight. I want that exact fight. I want people saying, your resistance to common sense. Which one of our policies seems more sensible to you? Which one? Do you think it's more sensible to, if you've got a problem with murder, do you think it's more sensible to cut the horns off the antelope? Or do you think it's more sensible to put the lion in a cage if you want to stop lions eating gazelles? Let's have that conversation. We got to watch out for infiltration. That's why we'll have certain wrenches. It'll be looking for people who are making false videos. Then we'll point those videos out. That'll be publicity too. We'll condemn them. We'll circle them like a series of antibodies, and we'll say, this is not us. This is somebody pretending to be us in order to show how hateful we are. But not only is this not us, isn't it interesting and pathetic that the only evidence that they can find about how awful we are is the evidence they manufacture themselves? See, I'm not the Tea Party. I know how to fight these people. Michelle Tongyai says, hey, can you elaborate more on how you plan to get the younger generation involved in CSR? I read about the short videos that you're thinking about doing. Not sure if adding more entertainment type format is what our youth need right now. There's so many games, videos, etc. to distract them already. Do you not think that maybe these videos might just be taken as entertainment and not as helpful facts? Michelle, I pray to God in heaven that these kids take these things as videos and entertainment and not as helpful facts. I just hope to God that they look at this as, hey, that was really cool. I hope they don't see or comprehend that there's a message in there at all. If they look at a video and they don't realize that this is about politics, we win in a landslide. It's over for them. No, I understand where you're coming from, and I certainly appreciate the sentiment behind it. On the contrary, this needs to be entertainment. Entertainment. The more they see the message, the less effective the message is. Isaac Tiemens says, do we emphasize fixing or resisting? Probably based on one of the little slogans I photoshopped on there saying, we can fix it. Well, we can't fix Obamacare. And to that degree, we resist things like Obamacare. But if we're set in the future and everything is broken, if nothing works, and the slogan of this mystery group is, we can fix it, that goes to the wrench, right? All of these symbols I've thought about an awful lot. We can fix it. Fix one. We can fix this bombed up building. We can fix the fact that your plumbing doesn't work because you live in state housing. We can fix the fact that you're eating algae because the state's eliminated private farmers. We can fix it. That's a good motto for us to have. That's kind of our peaceful motto. Our peaceful motto is we can fix it. Our more defensive motto is tyranny never sleeps and neither do we. Brent, I think that was you, whoever it is. I've credited you on the thing. I'm going to go back and find out who said it first, and I'll get you a free membership. And if you're already a member, I'll comp you one because that's just fabulous. Tyranny never sleeps and neither do we. That's just, God, I wish I wrote that. Maybe I will have. No, man, whoever that is, I've got to remind me, please. I'll take care of that immediately. If you're not already a member, I'll make you a member, and if you are a member, I'll comp it. Moving on. No good underground movement. I'm sorry, Chris Abate says, no good underground movement is complete without a pirate radio station. What should it be called, and what kind of music should it play? Ask the network. Don't ask me. But I agree. And I think we should have a bunch of little secret radio stations. Ask the network, don't ask me. How to market this thing in the real world, how we get people interested in CSR, how we get people to watch the videos as opposed to links and stuff, that'd be a fun challenge. That'd be something that we'd need some wrenches on. We'd need some wrenches on that problem. Okay. Manny Young says, when will the stencils and spray paint be available in your store? Seriously. I will sell bumper stickers, and I'll sell T-shirts, and I'll sell all the other stuff. I'm kind of inclined to say the stencils should just go out for free, or at least for cost or something. We'll get them. And listen, guys, if it turns out that we start seeing CSR stenciled on people's cars or private property, I'll be very upset. You want to stencil it on top of other graffiti? Knock yourself out. I already know that about you. I wouldn't have agreed to it. I know what kind of people we're dealing with here. I know what kind of people we're dealing with here. Yeah, stencils will be cool. And not only the stencils, obviously, give you the digital stencils. I'll give you the digital artwork for that hand in the fist thing. Here we go. This thing. I'm just going to give that out to everybody. And you can put it on your own website. If you want to have if your own wrench wants its own website, great. Do it. I'm just going to give it to you. And I'll give you all the other elements, too. And if you want to make your own T-shirts, that's fine, too. I had a conversation with our business manager about this just before we went on the air. And I said, look, there's one or two ways we can do this. We can do this the legal, licensing way, and then we have to worry about people pirating stuff, and we have to worry about, letters of cease and desist and all this other stuff. Or we can just give it to people. And that's what we're going to do. So, yeah, I'll give you the artwork. You make whatever T-shirts you want. We're going to sell them. Ours will be the official ones. But if you've got a better design than we do, you'll probably sell more than we will. And if you've got a better design than we do, we're going to start looking at that design. So yeah, open source, open everything. I want this movement to succeed, and we're going to make enough money to keep this thing going. I don't want control and coercion and legality is the death of all this thing. It has to be completely voluntary and completely virtuous and completely passionate. So yeah, we'll get those out. All those elements will get out. I got a bandwidth warning. I hate it when that thing comes on. There it goes, gone. Isaac Keeman says, is Slender Man the perfect icon for the faceless scourge of progressivism that CSR is resisting? For those of you who don't know, I forget the name, actually, 500 answers here. But Slender Man is this very tall, very thin, faceless creature who's kind of a background figure in a game. And he just shows up, and he's very spooky looking in appearance, very scary and iconic, and I don't know enough about him, but I'm starting to get the sense from just having an ear to the ground. I should probably look into it more. He's actually almost starting to show up as a sense of like a figure of liberation. Something like that would be really kind of cool. Having a figure lurking in the background in some of these videos would be really cool. Having, I don't know, Slender Man himself is a little difficult with copywriting. I don't know if this question comes up, so I'll take it now. People asked about the Rebel Alliance and why we didn't use Rebel Alliance. I don't own Rebel Alliance. Lucasfilms and Disney own Rebel Alliance. I'm not going to get into that fight. I'm not going to pick that fight. I'm not going to set this whole thing up and then just be told take it down or go to jail. No, thank you. Rebel Alliance is a great name. Starship Enterprise is copyrighted. Captain Kirk is copyrighted. Rebel Alliance belongs to Lucasfilm and Disney now, I guess, and these people protect their copyrights, so Oh, here it is. It's a little lower down. I thought so. Zachariah Tiemann said, could there possibly be a unification of the Rebel Alliance and the Common Sense Resistance? No, I don't own Rebel Alliance. I have no, not only do I not own it, if I start using the term Rebel Alliance, I'm going to get in trouble. I'm going to get, they're going to smack us with it. So no. And each one of these individual CSR things, I think, will probably have to come with some kind of agreement, when you get your name that basically acknowledges that, look, you're responsible for what your wrench does, and if you decide to use copyrighted material and you get, told to bring it down or whatever, then, I can't be legally responsible for that, so probably have to have some kind of thing like that, but minor, right? So I can't do Slender Man, but something iconic like that would be great. Joshua Tiemann's my guy. Zachariah Tiemann's, Isaac Tiemann's, and Joshua Tiemann's. It's the all Tiemann's show here. Will we have a secret handshake? I don't think we'll have a secret handshake, but it'd be cool to have a little secret signal. I don't shake that many hands, frankly, but it'd be cool to have a little something or other. Back to Alcoholics Anonymous, you couldn't just come up to somebody and say, hey, is Dave an alcoholic? They used to say, is Dave a friend of Bill W? So, we could do some kind of a thing like that, and I'll let you guys work on that kind of stuff because it's really kind of cool. I love all this stuff. It's really neat. But I don't have any idea for a secret handshake, but maybe we could have one. Josh Tiemann's again says, Bill, do we need to adopt a different vocabulary when it comes to presenting our ideas, considering that people don't even know what freedom is anymore? Yeah, and this is something I've been working on really hard, is this idea about making the message something that's palatable to people. You can talk about liberty, and you can certainly talk about the founders in tri-corner hats, and nobody's going to listen. But if you got a guy crouching in a bombed-out thing, and there's the sound of HK drones going overhead, you might be able to get people's attention for 2 minutes, especially if the guy's all scarred up and he's or his gun is smoking, or there's somebody on perimeter defense, or there's dogs barking in the distance, and he's writing on a piece of metal because paper is so rare. You might be able to hold their attention for 2 minutes if he spoke as a person talking to young people. And the way to hit young people on freedom is, hey man, we don't make you wear a bike helmet, and we don't limit the amount of slope on your tube the way that that the state does. We say if you want to go down that hill without pads and a helmet, it's your business. It's not my business. We're not here to tell you what you do. That's how you teach freedom to young people, that kind of thing. So we're going to have scripts that work that way. We're going to be taking submissions and things like that way. And frankly, I'm looking forward to user-generated content. I want people to send in videos that I had nothing to do with. I didn't write them, I didn't produce them, and I didn't shoot them, and and there's not going to be any editing to speak of, really. Just going to turn the camera on. If they're good enough, we'll put them on the official Common Sense Resistance channel. And if it turns out I don't think they're good enough for whatever reason quality-wise, and I hate to be so cold-blooded about it, but that's really what it will come down to, then by all means, put it on your YouTube channel, and we'll throw links to them. That's really it. So that's that. Yeah, we need to put this in language that people understand today. Patrick Gillen says, how can we prevent, identify infiltration of covert progressives into CSR ranks? Well, we're going to have people who are aware of it. We see somebody start talking about a Common Sense Resistance video about the wonders of collectivism. I'm going to send them an email, and if they're not an official thing, then we basically say, then we send every single member of the Common Sense Resistance to that YouTube page, and we down ding it, and every single comment that gets in there is like, this is not the Common Sense Resistance, this is a false flag operation. Yeah, that'd be really fun. That'd be really fun. So somebody have to have a couple wrenches out there looking for, just screening all the content that comes out. It's not going up on the official page, the official CSR channel. I'd love to be updating that daily from people sending in videos that are great. And I'm not going to be worried about technical quality, because technical quality is supposed to look bad. But if you go much over the 2-minute mark, or if there's something about the philosophy or something that's egregiously, off, then or if it's not delivered believably, or I don't know. But it's not going to be a quality issue. You're not going to have shoot this on an iPhone. Works great for me, man. Perfect. It's got to look commando. And so I'd like to be able to say, hey, here's the latest 4 Common Sense Resistance videos that came in today. But if somebody's doing stuff that's not us and they're trying to pretend to be us, then some of the wrenches out there will pick this up, and then they'll put the word out through the network, through the mailing list, and it'll go to the 6s of all the other wrenches, and the wrenches will basically say to their guys, hey, we need to go to YouTube, we need to down ding this thing, and we'll down ding it, and then every single comment we leave as a down ding, we're going to go, it's not us, it's not us, this is not us, we don't believe this, this is This is the antithesis of what we believe. All right, so we can win these guys. We're going to use all their strengths against them. We're going to just whip them. Whip them out of their boots. Zachariah Tiemans again says, could there possibly be a unification of the Rebel Alliance and the CSR? No, because I don't own Rebel Alliance. He goes on to ask, should CSR be decentralized, especially since we've experienced sharp downsides of decentralization with the Tea Party movement? I'm pretty sure I answered that already, Zach. The whole thing is about decentralization. I did one of those videos that said Organizing for America, and I said Organizing for Tyranny and the wrench, and it's like disassemble it. I almost wrote Disorganize for Freedom. I have to think that through. I haven't given that a lot of thought, but Disorganize for Freedom is a great way to go against these Organizing for America. Disorganizing for freedom. Disorganize it. Destructure it. Disassemble it. There's too much structure. There's too much vertical structure. There's too many pathways. There's too much authority. There's too much coercion. Disassemble it. We're free people. Make our own decisions. We'll do what's right. And we will voluntarily associate with other people that want to do what's right for what's in our common interest. Disassemble it. Get this crap out of the way. Clean out the arteries. Backwash the filter. Disorganize it. This is powerful, 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 powerful stuff. Disorganize for freedom. Organizing for America. What are you doing? We're disorganizing for freedom. We're disorganizing for America. We think America's a little over-organized, and we know who the organizers are, and we know what the end goal of the organizations is. Organizing for power. Organizing for centralized power. No, thank you. Andy Schnick says, one thing I'm hoping with the CSR is to highlight critical theory and the Frankfurt School and their influences to the point that those things are so commonly known, everyone knows what we're talking about, because my experience with liberals is that they don't believe they're socialists following the same path as the communist regimes in the Soviet Union. So can the CSR also spread the message that the Frankfurt School, through critical theory, influenced modern liberalism? Yes, but we're not going to give them that lecture. What we're going to do is we're going to produce a video that's not going to be a common sense resistance video. It's going to be a state video, and it's going to be about kids playing with Legos. And it's going to be one kid's going to build this really amazing Lego thing, and the other kids are going to be sad and they're going to cry. And then they're going to take that kid and they're going to make him give his Lego pieces up, and he's going to make something that's just as good or as bad as everybody else's. And then they're going to say they're going to take that kid away, and I say, should they hurt him? No. Is he being mean? Well, he was being mean because he made something nicer, but we don't want to be mean to him. They're going to sit down and very nicely explain to him that it's not fair to the other kids that you build something that nice. We're going to use the Frankfurt School message as a real message, and we're going to make it look good. We're not going to mock it. We're going to sell it. We're going to sell the enemy's position. We're going to say, it's not nice for you to go in there and make something really that nice. Those other kids can't do that. You just have to do something like other people, and then wait till people see. Wait till they see. You can't really talk about that. Why not? It's not nice, but it's true. Yeah, but you can't really talk about it. We're going to use their message. See, our message is going to be the pirate message. Their message is going to be the glossy state message, and we're going to present their message, and we're going to present it in a palpable way. We're going to make it look attractive. But we're also going to make it look a little scary. We're going to make it look a little bit scary. Just a little bit. You go too hard, you bludgeon people with it, they're not going to buy it. We're going to do it. Hey, Japheth Dennis in the comment section here says, instead of disorganized, he says, how about deorganized? That is fabulous. Deorganizing is much better than disorganizing. I didn't like disorganizing. Deorganizing. That's bloody brilliant, man. Thank you. Take a look at that, too. Okay, 3 to go. Michelle Laflamme says, does CSR have some sort of test or de-indoctrination program through which new recruits must go in order to assure against dependency, sellout, sabotage? No, I'm not going to enforce that. The network will enforce it. I'm not going to make people pass a test. I'm not going to have, I'm not going to investigate them. I'm not going to look up their background. I have time for it, and the network has time for it. I don't have time for it. So no, you get me 5 emails. You've heard about it. You send me 5 emails. Probably make sure they're active emails. You're going to have to hear back from all 5 of them or whatever. We'll figure it out. But once I can have 5 real email addresses that are answered, then boom, off you go. And then the nodes, the network will protect itself. The network will protect itself. It'll police itself. It's like an immune system. It'll look for invasion. It'll look for foreign bodies. It'll tag them. It'll identify them, and then it'll destroy them. philosophically. It'll isolate them, cut them off, destroy them. And people who are really egregious will make into a publicity case. We'll use that to our advantage. Somebody wrote a CSR video that was hateful, violent, calling for the violent destruction of the president or whatever. We didn't make that video. As a matter of fact, every single one of the people in this network went and condemned that video. Powerful. It's powerful. Michael Glanville says, what would CSR do to promote memes that doesn't involve strictly panning Obama? I ask because I think sarcasm and derision, but while good, only go so far. Glad you asked that. We're not going to mention Obama. Obama will not be the president when this is happening, but there will be a big brother figure for sure, and he will be a mixed race figure. And one of the little tiny pieces of chrome that I decided to put into this thing, it'll be one of those little breakthrough CSR messages that are going to come in, one of the 2-minute messages. And it's going to be, I don't know if it's going to be a computer-generated face, but it will not be a real face. It'll be a morph of several different faces. And it will look enough like Obama so that people will know who we're talking about. And then we're going to do a tiny little CSR thing where somebody's going to grab some printouts, some stills, and they're going to say, you know what's interesting? What's interesting is the face changes very, very subtly depending on who's getting the message. So if you're an Asian family, the face of Big Brother is just slightly more Asian looking than the Caucasian guy or the black guy, and that they not only know the kind of smiling face that you want to see. I guess he will be a computer-generated figure in the future, something like that. But we'll do it with stills at least until we get a real budget. But he's being tailored for you. See the power of that? You see the power of getting that message out there? Look, some guy's going to hold up 2 pictures. See, here's Big Brother, whatever we'll call him. We can't call him Big Brother, but whatever. Here's Big Brother that was recorded off of my TV set, and then we have a maybe Zoe. And he says, and this is Big Brother recorded off of my TV set. And you hold the two up, and they're very similar. It's the same face, but one is slightly darker than the other. You know what I mean? See, then you start saying, see, these people are messing with your heads, man. They're messing with your heads. So, but Obama himself will never be mentioned by name, and you'll never see his face. You're never going to hear Obamacare. He doesn't exist. He doesn't care. So, he's not here, but the spirit of him is here. And the guy who we're going to have as the face of Big Brother will certainly suggest him. And we'll know who we're talking about. Last question. Marlon James, will you provide a CSR logo for people to start including their own work? Yes, as I said. You'll get all the digital elements. We're just going to give the digital elements away. We'll give I've got this here. And I've got a 2-color version of that. And I think I have one other thing that I bought. Let me see if I can find that just real quick. Give me 1 second here. Where is he? This guy. I may use him for bigger stuff. I'm going to bring him in, but if I do, he's going to knock the sound out for a second. Give me a second here. Sorry about all this. We're going to put him. Okay, so this guy. It's kind of cool. I'm slightly worried that he's a little bit Soviet realism kind of thing, but it's just cool. He looks like an American to me. It looks just like it doesn't have that Soviet kind of quality. It's just cool. And I may use this graphic as a measure of our fundraising, as kind of our little thermometer thing. All right, it's about 7:52. We've been going on for 1 hour and 54 minutes, almost 2 hours. Those are the last of the questions. So just to recap, we are going to do this. It's going to happen. The sooner we get, I wrote the number down at the beginning of the show, the total number of subscribers, because during the last 4 or 5 days, we sat down and did some serious budgeting on what it would take for the, shoot 4 a month, which means we release 1 a week of our stuff. Member submitted content obviously is a freebie. But we took a look at what it would take to produce this. Right now, BillWhittle.com is losing money, as all startups do. It's not panic time, but we are not paying our bills based on the number of subscribers we have. We cannot afford to take on another show of this magnitude and this budget without at least making up the revenue that it would cost us. That's really where we are. That's basically, the internals are basically that. We're losing money right now. We lose a little less money every week because we are getting signups, but if we're going to take on this financial burden to do this, we're going to have to at least displace, not replace, but displace the burden. So I wrote the number down before we started the show, and when we have 510 more subscribers than that, we will be shooting these things and getting them done. That would also mean things like website development, something, in terms of a central clearinghouse. We got to get all this stuff straightened out. But I think this has the ability to really change things. And as I said at the very beginning, I'll close with this. There are 3 potential outcomes. Maybe there's a million potential outcomes, but I see 3 potential outcomes for this. The simple one, and the one that will happen, is that it's a great skin for political content, and it's a lot of things, and it's fun for us to just play with. It's fun to send each other emails and stuff saying, hey, this is, Buick 3, and saw this or that. It's just cool. This is, this is CSR 6. This is CSR actual. It's neat. And it's fun, and it's story. It's not commentary. It's entertainment, which is what we're trying to do with BillWhittle.com, is to get ourselves between here and the movies, go out and shoot entertainment, go out and shoot dramas. These are dramas. It's how you reach people, through story. So at the worst, it'll be interesting story. It'll be good political commentary. I think we'll convert some people. I think we can get some viewers. Maybe there's a video game downstream. There's all kinds of cool things. That's the least it'll be. I think the next step up, as I said, is it could become, if there's enough people, then it becomes a real-world political movement. It becomes something that not necessarily becomes a third party, but it becomes something where you can just, go out and move votes, and not just move votes, organize things. So-and-so is a genuine conservative running in the 2nd Congressional District in Arizona. Out goes the word to the nodes. Can we raise some money for this guy? Can we put a fundraiser? Can we do this? Can we get can we get CSR Actual to come out and speak about it? Maybe that kind of thing. So the second step is it could become a real influence in the real world. And the third step, as I said before, I know people are going to mock me for this. They mock me for just about everything I do, and that's a sign that you're over the target when you're getting the kind of flack. But finally, what it comes down to is, look, if this world does face financial ruin and financial collapse, it wouldn't be a bad thing to have out there. And ham radio operators could be very useful in this regard, because the nice thing about ham radio operators is you don't even need the internet. The internet's pretty robust, but if everything goes down, it wouldn't be a bad thing at all to have some kind of a network structure out there of people who were united by one thing and one thing only. Not so much united even by an ideology, but united by the idea of a hand with a wrench in it. The idea that things can be fixed, that they can be repaired, that they can be improved, that we can build things better than they used to be before, and the things that are falling apart, we can fix it. People have a sense of hopelessness, and they have a sense that the world is running out of control and that decline is inevitable and all that other stuff. It's not inevitable. We can fix it. We can fix it. We can fix the whole thing, make it better than it was before. And that's what the wrench is about. And one tiny little philosophical wrinkle. I think one thing we could do is we could basically say as a code word, and we can have graphics that would indicate this, a wrench turning to the right and a wrench turning to the left. We could say this is a clockwise operation or a counterclockwise operation. A little fun little piece of semantics here. But think about this. We look at the problems in the world today that the common sense resistance would have to address. I think most of the situation, most of the problems with our country today are the result of things that are too loose. Not enough standards, not enough rigor, not enough discipline, not enough effort, not enough achievement, not enough vision. And if something is too loose, you have to turn it to the right, right? If something's too loose, you turn it to the right to tighten it. But there are some things in the world, and this is how you make the message accessible to everybody. There's some problems in our country that are too tight. Too much restrictions, too much regulation. You have to turn those to the left to loosen them. Now, I know the left is pushing for more regulation, but you can basically say that this is a clockwise operation, that this is the command wrench. This wrench is going to command this operation to the degree that they're going to be the clearinghouse for the operation. So let's say there's a problem, a social problem we want to solve, whatever it is. Let's say it's repealing Obamacare, okay? So we'd have to have a pretty high-level wrench in terms of experience, but that could be the project organizer wrench to repeal Obamacare, let's say in the state of Oregon or whatever the case may be. And then that wrench basically handles the coordination among the network of all the other wrenches that want to either donate money, they want to donate airplanes, they want to do whatever they want to do. that wrench handles it, and if that wrench needs to coordinate with other wrenches in order to help with the coordination, then those wrenches are in a direct communication with each other. Don't talk to me, don't talk to anybody who's not in Oregon, none of that. It assembles itself. It assembles itself and it administers itself. And then when that thing is over, then those connections fall apart. They're supposed to fall apart. You know? So nobody owns the list. I think the mailing list, every single time somebody, I think we update the mailing list. I think we can work it out on the website so that if you're a registered member, you get the mailing list. That's why I recommend you probably get your own different email address for this. I think it's probably wise. But see, that way not even the network is centralized. Yeah, there's a world where I could just keep the mailing list and just keep it. But if I keep it, then you don't get to talk to each other. You only get to talk to me, and then the whole thing falls apart. Then it's just stupid. So, right? You join up, you get the mailing list, and that mailing list grows and grows and grows and grows and grows. I can't control what goes out over that mailing list. People want to sell insurance over that mailing list. I guess they can. But the only person that can't be taken off of the mailing list, because I will be the clearinghouse. So every time somebody new comes online, I'm going to update the mailing list. And if somebody's really abusing the system, they get knocked off the mailing list, right? Somebody's really just spamming things and get enough complaints, we'll take them off the mailing list. The only person that gets to use that mailing list consistently and not get knocked off of it is me. And the only reason I would use that mailing list, other than to say here's a serious problem, is probably once a week or so, I'm going to say, hey, if you're having fun with this, we'd love to have you join up and become a member of BillWhittle.com. We cannot start this until we have 510 members from before the start of the show tonight. But once it's running, those subscribers, bless your hearts, will keep this thing going. And from that point on, I'm going to use it to grow the system because, frankly, as I said, we're not in the black yet. And if we get 510 members, we still won't be in the black, but we'll be able to pay for this. And then we'll do a fundraiser, and we'll see if we can't get Andrew Clavin over here. We'll do a fundraiser for the Man Cave. When I say a fundraiser, a membership drive. And that way I'm not just constantly coming to you with my hat in my hand. I'm just saying, hey, you want to do this fun show? Is that like fun to you? Yep. Well, it's going to cost us 300 subscribers. And it's completely voluntary, right? I have no coercion over you. I don't want any. I don't want control. I don't want any of that. We have enough control. We have enough authority. We have enough of this kind of, wholesome goodness in our world right now. Deorganize it. Whoever wrote that, let me know. Somebody send me an email or Facebook message. The Deorganize It guy. I'm sorry, it scrolled by and I can't go get it now. I think you get a little dog biscuit for that too. Yes, and as somebody said, only the 6 should be on the mailing list. That's right. You're not going to get emails from everybody. The 6 will get emails from the other 6s, right? So we reduce by a factor of, instead of 5 people, times 5 times 5 times 5, it's 1 times 1, times 1. All right, kids. That's it for Stratosphere Lounge episode number, golly, where'd I put it? 47, I think. I'll get it right. I mislabeled one of them or we lost an episode. You know what? Just for the sake of the official record. And by the way, speaking of Stratosphere Lounge, we're going to get somebody who's going to go through all of these things in the background, and they're going to basically just give us all the questions, and they'll do timestamps so we get this thing a little more organized in the future. Where did I put this thing? Virtually positive it's number 47. Good Lord, Bill. Yes, it's episode 47 of the Stratosphere Lounge, coming to you from beautiful downtown unknown location. And I don't know, guys. I'm excited about this as I can be. I've been sitting on this for a couple years, and the thing I'm most excited about is what you're going to bring to it. This is just a sketch. It's the outline. Everybody's going to add their own chrome. There's going to be so many great ideas. Run your wrenches the way you want to. It's none of my business. I don't care. But anyway, that's the vision for it. And at the very least, as I said, I know we can have a lot of fun. So thanks for joining us, as usual. Thanks for all your support on Facebook. Thanks for keeping this BillWhittle.com thing going. I've been trying my level best to update this thing every day and let you know it's a going concern, and I feel like we're doing well with that. And with all that said, again, I really appreciate all the support and all the time. Thank you all for joining us. Had a good crowd in the room tonight, and hopefully we'll get this thing shared. So I'll get it up on Facebook tomorrow. All right. Thanks again for joining us. We'll see you for episode 48 next week. Hopefully we'll have some new ideas. And thanks again, guys. We'll see you soon. So y'all take care of yourself. Here's your logo. Knock yourself out. See ya. Bye.